What's happening, New Clan? Hawk Neighbor here, coming at you from our medieval city gatehouse Let's Build. I'm going to try to keep this nice and short, only 2 episodes. I'm going to try to not push it into three. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right on into getting back to our build. So, the first thing you'll notice is that I have replicated the front onto the back of the build, which is intentional, of course, because we do want it to look the same on both sides. Um, and of course, the archway is now on both sides. Still a lot of work to do, guys. Still a lot of work to do. This hasn't been worked on yet because it is where the wall, of course, is going to meet up to the side of the gate. The main portion that we still have to work on is the center of the gate, as well as these levels here on top. So let's go ahead and see what we want to do about that. I think before we can proceed, I think we need to work on this archway a little bit more. We're going to go ahead and do away with this. Let's get rid of all of this here because we're going to start adding layers to our arch. So first thing we'll do is we'll bring this up by 1. Actually, from that perspective, we need to bring it down by 1. So that way, arch ends here. Let's go ahead and this down. And there. And I think we'll do this. Let's see how that looks. I'm not a huge fan of how that looks. It usually looks better than that on normal archways to do a recess like that. Now it might look better if we change this to a normal archway. Then look at that there. I don't know, guys. What do you think? Hmm. Very, very interesting. I'm not quite sure what to do about this. I think instead of this, we are going to get rid of this section. Altogether. This is so tedious just to undo this. I probably should use World Edit, but whatever, it's done now. I like the initial arch. I do. I like this initial A-frame sort of arch. But I'm not so sure it's going to work for me yet. Alright, so we have laid down our floor as well as added this layer above. Now this is going to have to change. It just looks all weird and ugly right now. But I promise as it comes to shape, as it begins to get shaped, it will begin to look a lot better. So let's go ahead and begin that sort of process. Now I'm going to go ahead, whoops, I've already got cobblestone, so let's go ahead and fill this in. Let's start working on just one just one wall, and then if we like the way it looks, we can duplicate it to all the other walls. So what I was thinking was rather than go the usual route, we could bring in several different arches like this. recessed. There we go. Then we can make another one here. Here. Oops. There. And there. And then we'll bring this on down here. We'll actually end up making this part of it. And then what will happen here is we'll take this away. We'll add. Is that gonna work? Oh shoot. They're gonna mess up something in the front. You know, it might, but here's how we can compensate for this. This. And then that. There we go. There we go. Now we're starting to get somewhere. Now we're starting to get somewhere. That doesn't look half bad. Alright. I'm going to duplicate this several other times, and then I'll be right back. Here we go, guys. And look at how awesome this actually ended up looking. If you look from the outside, from the front, look at how deep everything looks now. Now that things are starting to take shape from the inside. And, like, when you look through this gate, just imagine, like, being a traveler or something coming up to this gate and looking up and thinking, you know, this is a really well defended city, you know, or being a scout or what have you, you know, and just coming through and looking at these impressive archways and things. This looks really, really good. Now, the next thing to do is to design the gate itself. I want there to be this nice, thick portcullis. It's going to be, I'm not really sure what it's going to be made out of yet, or how it's going to look, or any of that. And rather than sit here and just fiddle around with a bunch of designs on camera and waste a bunch of time, I'm going to do that off camera, like I have been doing for a lot of things. I want you to see some of my creative process, but I don't want you to be bored to tears by the tedious breaking and placing of blocks. So let's go ahead and I will do that design for the gate really quick, and I will be right back. We're back, and let's take a look at this gate really quick. So one important thing I'd like to note about making any sort of gate now is it doesn't matter how big or small it is. What matters is the details. If you're just gonna do a really thin one and you're gonna use like iron bars or whatever, that's fine. Um, that's fine and all if you have a smaller gate. But if you're building big, if you're building on a larger scale that allows for more details to be made, take the extra time to make those details. And as you know, building with layers, building it with depth adds to the overall effect. And as you can see, there's some depth even to the gate. And so, because it is 3, is a huge, massive gate. And not only does it reach down here, it's not just for aesthetics or whatever. It also reaches up above where the gate comes up into the gatehouse, where I'm going to design some kind of crankshaft, some sort of lifting mechanism I really want to do for the gate itself. And it sort of ends up here in this nice little rounded fashion. I think it looks pretty nice actually from the top and from the bottom. It looks like this could be a real gate, like a real gate that they can raise and lower, even though of course it's stationary and it's not going anywhere. But I also added this road. It's a nice mixture of cobblestone and gravel and stone and andesite, as well as some cobblestone stairs to make little potholes. And these are not potholes. This is where the portcullis comes down and actually connects with the road, or in this case, the floor of the gate. Um, is actually where it would clamp in and lock into place into these holes. Each hole matches up with the bottom of the portcullis. So if it were ever to be lowered, the ends of the portcullis would lock into place here. So that is another feature that you can add to your gates to make them look more realistic and functional. Yeah, it does put like these holes here, but realistically speaking, that they would actually be there. Now, there's another technique to this. You can actually cover this up, make this hole like this, and then cover it up with like a trap door or something. Um, but I like it this way because you can actually see them from a distance, and it adds a little bit of depth to the road as you're walking through the gate. So just look at that. It's coming along nicely. We're actually looking like a a gate. So let's continue on with our build. All right. Here you see we've added a front portion to the gate. We've gone ahead and filled in our hole. It's another variation of this design here, which I might add, even though it's not a typical arrow slit, um, because it's made with half slabs instead of stairs. You can actually shoot through this. So if you're up here and you're looking outside and Minecraft zombie apocalypse is going on, you can actually shoot out of these rather than the arrow slits, which, depending on the type of build that you're doing, will look better than these. But since I wanted to add some timber framing to the build and not just keep it all stone, these actually ended up looking rather nice. And plus, they kind of look like murder holes, um, which back in the day, they were used to like hurl rocks and stuff out onto the attackers and pour boiling oil and whatnot. So yeah, that's what they kind of remind me of. Anyway, so and we've duplicated that on all sides, and as you can see, I've made some changes to the inside. I've gone ahead and laid out all the wooden floor. I've created a step down. Haven't created any sort of mechanism yet, but and I might not, depending on. It really depends. I think I'm gonna put them here, maybe. I'll probably put one here and one on the other side of the gate. Now, the last thing we have to do is the last two things we have to do, actually, I should say, is create the last level of the gatehouse and to create a wall section that meets up with the gate so that we know how our gate is going to meet up with the wall itself. So just stay tuned for that, guys, and I will be right back after toying around with some designs really quick. All right, so we're back, and I'm going to take you over here and see the wall that I've created. And as you can see, I saw a need to continue this stone and wood motif. It's got a nice thick stone base going into a wooden upper wall. You would see a lot of these sorts of walls in towns actually, which I think would be pretty fitting for this type of city idea that I've got going. And I have continued on with this sort of murder hole idea on the lower end, and so there will be a walkway inside here, as well as another covered walkway over the top of the wall here. And I've duplicated this on both sides, as you can see. And just taking a step back here really quick, look at how massive this thing is. Look at how huge the gate is already. Now, I've toyed around with a few things in my head, and I think what I want to do is I'm going to raise up this just a little bit right here, uh, just so that there's a top layer here with some battlements on top. And then I'm probably going to create some sort of connecting roof in between the two that slopes down towards the front and the back. So I think that's what I'm going to do, guys. But I wanted you to see my progress and this little addition of the wall, which I actually, you know, I basically, how I started was I took this right here and I just copied it over here. And I said, okay, so this is going along with the base of our gate. How can I change things up a little bit, but still stay with the theme, still stay with the basic design of the rest of the build? And this is what I came up with. So I think it looks rather nice, especially for a stone and wooden wall. I think it transitions pretty nicely. I think that those murder holes, I'm gonna call them, add a nice touch, not only from a practical standpoint of it being a defensible wall, but also it adds a nice aesthetic. So yes, we are almost done. I think we are gonna actually finish up in this video. So I'm gonna go ahead and start here by raising this up a little bit more, and we will continue in just a moment. All right, guys. Now I went ahead and I finished her up, and I apologize that I didn't show more of my building this episode, but I didn't want to take forever. I didn't want to take three whole 20-minute episodes just to do one build. However, that being said, I probably should have maybe made the episodes a little bit longer so that I could show a little bit more of the building process. So I do apologize for that, but it was a pretty massive undertaking, and it was bigger than I expected, and it took longer than I expected. So, that being said, let's go ahead and let's do the big reveal. Now, it's lacking in some detail, but the build itself is complete, and you'll see the updated detail whenever I take this build and we put it into our city. So, without further ado, let's see the finished product. And here it is, guys, the finished product. Just wow. I mean, look at this behemoth of a structure. It's more than just a gate. It's more than that. It's practically a fortress, and all by itself. And it's definitely going to make a very grand entrance into our city. Now, I'll take you through the changes that I made. Prior to this, of course, we didn't have these crenellations. We did have the side walls here. That's not a change. But what I did was I took the stone in a little bit, brought it up, and then made this up top. Now it's still very plain. It's blank. There's not any extra pizzazz or wow. There's no vines hanging down like we would normally add. There's no flags. There's nothing like that. However, I want to save that for a later date, and I want to add that in once I actually incorporate the gate into the city whenever we do start that project. And it's actually going to be its own series all by itself. Just building the city is going to be its own series. So, that being said, um, just I'm going to give you a quick roundabout here so that you can take in the gate and these wall sections, and just it's symmetrical on both sides, so you don't really have to look at too much of difference. But it's definitely the most unique gate I think I've ever built. And definitely the biggest, definitely the biggest gate I've ever built. And that's saying quite a bit because um, you've seen the City of Angbar series, and its gate, and it has a lot of other details in it and a lot of surrounding things that make it pretty massive. But this, as a standalone structure, is simply massive. So I think we can all appreciate the grandeur here. And I'm gonna do a quick walkthrough of the center. And I added this. Um, this is sort of like what I would imagine would be a a catch for the gate. Like there would be some gears or something perhaps inside the mechanism, and it would sort of link into these grooves as it came down. So I wanted things to look functional. I wanted things to look um, like grand. Now, take a trip with me back in time really quick. Imagine you're a traveler passing through this gate, just like we did before, and then you have to pass through this massive archway out into the sunshine and the city square. And that essentially is the feel that I'm going to be going for when we start this city project. But man, this was a very big undertaking. It was a big build. It's a lot bigger than I even expected it to be. I did want, when we first created that base, I didn't expect it to evolve into what it did. And that just goes to show, guys, when you're creating your builds, um, and you create that initial outline, understand the scale that you're working with. I actually underestimated my scale a little bit, but I think that it ended up being a good thing in this case because we ended up with this massive, huge behemoth of a gate, and it's definitely very intimidating. I would think twice before sieging this city, and the walls are also very tall, very well defended, and I think overall I'm just very, very pleased with how this came out. Let me know what you think of this absolutely monstrous gate down in the comment section below. Leave me a like if you really liked it, and share these Let's Build series, share my other videos if you don't think your friends are really into the Let's Build things. But make sure that we start spreading the word about Runehammer Gaming. But that's all I had time for today, guys. Thank you so much for hanging in here with me. I know it wasn't exactly like my last Let's Build with the windmill, where I showed you me placing every single block, but I think we can all agree that this was a much more massive undertaking than that windmill was. And so I'm going to try to create a format to where these Let's Builds are easier to follow, and you can see a little bit more of my creative process, so that way you can understand where I'm coming from, the planning that goes into this, and all the other little things that come together to make these builds happen. That way you can take my tips and my advice, and you can go and create your own amazing creations, because that's what I'm here for, guys. I'm here to help you become a better Minecrafter and to unleash your creativity with the world. So until next time, I'm Hawk Runehammer, signing out.